This is part two of the podcast with Heather One. If you haven't watched part one, go there and watch it. We were talking about how belly dance, she actually told me how belly dance is actually sexual and not just sensual, and which is shocking, but maybe not surprising to a lot of people. And then we talked about performances, and you talked about the audience and what how they sometimes push their child to dance with the dancer. Is that what you were
Oh,
saying?
sure. With the dancer, without, if there's, it depends on the situation, and Egypt is so variable. You have people who are very conservative, you have people who are not conservative. You have Christians, you have Muslims, you have various social classes. But generally speaking, let's say you're at a wedding and a shabby wedding, meaning like a urban lower class wedding, a street wedding. There's going to be no issue with the kids dancing ballet, dancing with the dancer. I have some old photos that one of my informants from Muhammad Ali Street shared with me of weddings that he performed in, and with the dancer holding a toddler on her knee as part of the fun of the wedding. So it's I feel like what I wish that Westerners especially understood is that the dance itself is the dance, but it serves so many functions. It fulfills so many things for people. And when I bring up like the sexual aspect, that's one side of it, but it's not the only side of it. It really can cover the range of human emotion and human
Mhm.
experience. And we shouldn't, try to impose our own understandings on it. We should just let it be as it exists in the culture that created it, and appreciate all its various nuances.
Hmm. Yeah, there was once I read it in a books. I sold the books because I moved into a new country, but it said that a belly dancer must know to express all of the feelings, like the sorrow, the
Yeah,
happiness, the sadness, the grieving, but also intense joy.
yeah,
It's a myriad of like what life is, no? All of these things.
exactly.
Um, I want to ask you about your profile picture that you sent me. You sent me like a few pictures to pick from, and you sent me one picture, which is the one that I choose for the flyer, where you are with, is it a chair?
It's a chair in my teeth.
Your chair is, yeah, guys, she has a chair on your teeth, and then you also, I see that you also have this candelarios. How do you say the Kerzen? The
Yeah, the candelabrum. Mm.
Yes, you also, so tell us a little bit about, because maybe people don't know, maybe they do know, but inside of belly dance, there are different categories. Some people dance with swords, with snakes, with chairs was new for me. What's it with the chair?
So, yeah, okay, so in the history of professional belly dance in Egypt, there is a long, long history of dancers doing acrobatic feats. So, on the one hand, this includes things like uh, acrobatic floor work, like dropping into the splits and doing extreme back bends and things like this. But it also includes an array of balancing acts. So, among the traditional artists that I work with, I have been the last few years doing a lot of work interviewing Gawazi, retired Gawazi from the Nile Delta. And those dancers were quite famous for doing a lot of these wild acrobatic kind of things. Balancing any number of objects. Like I have footage of one of these ladies balancing three chairs in
Oh
her
my
teeth.
God. In her teeth.
Yeah. Yeah. And
Oh.
it's not even specific to dancers. Like there are kind of professional entertainers that would appear at like festivals and things who would do these kind of acts. And dancers, I think, just started incorporating it because it was spectacle. You know, these kind of acts are all about the wow factor for the audience. And so, my goodness, I've so much documentation of so many different kinds of balancing acts. But I started doing the chair balancing specifically because it's something I'd encountered in my research with the Gawazi and the Awalim. And yeah, but shoot, the candelabrum, that's something that started around the turn of the 19th and 20th centuries. There are examples of dancers balancing tables in their teeth, benches, you name it, they'll balance it.
Wow, this is tables. This is crazy. Like, this is
Yeah.
crazy. I would love to see that. But the because you mentioned the Awali, which are from what I've read, let's see if that's right. They're maybe comparable to the geishas from Asia. So they have studied like poetry and literature and different instruments and dance. And the Gawazi are more the women who are traveling and they're more outside on the street. Some people would put this like gypsy, but gypsy is a problematic word in itself. Is that the is the are the like I know that there people say that there is one Gawazi still alive. Are the Avalim? Is there one of the Avalim still alive? Some people say that Badia Masapni was the last Avalim. How is that?
My lord. People say a lot of things. So, oh my goodness. So let me give you a crash
Crash course.
history. But this is a subject I talk about a lot, so hopefully I can say it in a concise way. So there have been a lot of different categories of professional entertainers over the centuries, but I think that we hear a lot about the Awalim and the Gawazi because Europeans were very fixated on them in the 19th century, especially. This, you know, in the latter part of the Ottoman period, essentially, it wasn't just the Awalim and Gawazi, but for female professional entertainers, we could think of them as the two main categories. And really the difference between them in those days, like the early 19th century, was the Awalim were, their target audience was the elites, and the Gawazi, their target audience was the public, the masses. And so the Awalim generally were performing inside of elite homes, and they had a well-rounded skill set. They could sing, they could dance, they could recite poems, but they weren't themselves high-class women. You know, I want to be clear that throughout Egyptian history, female artists have always been marginal people. But marginal doesn't necessarily mean that they're not getting hired. It's just that we'll hire you, but, you know, our son's not going to marry a girl like you, you know, basically like that. The Gawazi performed generally in public mixed gender settings, so they had kind of a lower esteem because of that. But the boundary between these two was always fuzzy. There were some Awalim who performed in the same settings as the Gawazi. There were some Gawazi who found favor with certain elite clients and got accepted into households as entertainers. So it's always been a little fuzzy. After Muhammad Ali and various historical circumstances over the course of the 19th century, the definition of these terms shifted so that Awalim, by the beginning of the 20th century, Awalim meant a popular entertainer for the urban middle and lower classes, where Gawazi meant a rural entertainer. So an entertainer working in the villages in the countryside. And that connotation of those terms still exists today, although the word Awalim is kind of old-fashioned. The word Gawazi still has currency. And a few things I want to say about the Gawazi. Number one, there absolutely still are Gawazi. I've met many of them. There are still active Gawazi in Upper Egypt. The Gawazi tradition in the Delta is extinct, but there are older retired women who still talk about their careers. So they're not all gone. They're there, but it just takes some effort, to get there and talk to them. Now, as far as their ethnicity, this is an unfortunate mythology that has stuck in the belly dance industry, that these women are all quote unquote gypsies, or to use a more polite term, Roma or Dom. And they're not. And I know this from their own mouths. Many of them do belong to those communities, although those communities in Egypt don't know the word Roma, they don't know the word Dom, and they only know their local groups. So we have groups like Nawar and Halab and Hengaraniya and Masalib and Mitagil and Shahina, all these little sub-ethnic groups. But from their point of view, being a Gazia, being Gawazi is a job, it's an occupation.
Mm-hmm.
It's to be a singer-dancer, because, by the way, these women were never just dancers. They also had to be able to sing and tell jokes and do all sorts of things in their entertainment. So I've asked them point blank, are Gawazi all of these ethnic groups? And they've told me point blank, no, Gazia is a job. But the reason that there's overlap between these ethnic groups and this occupation is that being a dancer is a marginal, undesirable trade. And so people from minority ethnic groups, minority religions, minority social classes ended up in undesirable trades, because those are the trades that were available to them. So there's sort of a Venn diagram between these ethnic groups and being Gawazi, but not all Gawazi belong to those ethnic groups. And not all people in those ethnic groups work in the entertainment trades.
Mm-hmm. That is an important differentiation, because I also see uh some people teaching like Gawazi dance. That's in Brazil. Gawazi dance as slash dança ciganas in Portuguese, which,
Yes.
yes, which is then again a mix, but yeah, Sinti and Roma are from one region, and then people say that they can be tracked back to India, and you're saying that the Gawazi don't understand themselves as descendant from that same road.
Well, look, the thing is, so I'll talk about specific people. Kyria Mazin identifies as Nawar. So she is of one of those communities. Engem Ibrahim identifies as Halab, which is a different one of those communities.
Mm-hmm.
Aida Taha identifies as Ghagar, which is a third of those communities. But all three of them have told me that there are Gawazi who are just Egyptian. They don't belong to any of those ethnic groups. And one of my informants, Hashim, is very adamant that she doesn't belong to any of those ethnic groups. So, it's apples and oranges.
Mm-hmm.
You could be of those ethnic groups and do this occupation, or you could not be of those ethnic groups and do the occupation. I have a
Since
lot of dance colleagues in Brazil, and
yeah.
there are a lot of folks trying to bring this more updated information to the Brazilian scene. But I know there's this is a long-standing thing.
Yeah, it's hard, because but I interviewed one of my teachers, and I wish that she could watch this interview. I'm gonna send it to her, but she can only watch it with subtitles because she doesn't speak English.
Right.
And so I think that the information is sort of like you translate the Bible, and in the beginning it was Aramaic, and then it is whatever
Right.
is left from the translation. Yeah, that sort of thing. But it happens, and that's why these talks. But you speak Arabic, so what? Tell me how did you come to, maybe like from your personal story a little bit? How did you come to speak Arabic? Because you're born in the US, or did you grow up
Yes.
speaking Arabic?
Oh
No.
no. Oh no, no, no.
You,
This has been an effort because, I've been engaged with Egyptian dance for a long time, but I would say it was only like in 2020, it was in the pandemic era that I really buckled down and tried to get better with my Arabic. I've been trying to do a lot through self-study for a long time. And also I have a partner who is Palestinian, and a lot of people assume, oh, if you have a partner who speaks the language, but never depend on your partner to help you learn your language because he would just revert to English all the time, like, nah, no. So ultimately, when the pandemic happened, I said, well, I'm stuck here. So, some people learned how to make sourdough. I decided I'm going to get an Arabic tutor and finally fix this problem. So I had a tutor. I still consider her my teacher, but we were doing Zoom lessons because I needed the accountability, you know? And once I buckled down and I had the tutor, then I started to build up to the level that I wanted to be. And when I was able to travel again, and start going back to Egypt, I think in 2022 was post-pandemic when I started going back. I have tried really hard to function without a translator. The area where I stay in Cairo there's no tourists in that area. I really try to immerse myself, so I'm forcing myself to use the language because it's been very important to me to take that step because I feel like if any of us are putting ourselves out there as instructors with expertise on Egyptian dance, why on earth are we not studying the language of the
yes,
dance?
yes.
So,
Especially
and
if you have these songs, I try to, like, I listen to a lot of Arabic music, but I try to avoid to perform to songs that are, you know, speaking in Arabic, because I don't know what they're talking about. And maybe I'm doing like a nice dance and he's talking about marrying, which is something that I do not wish to do.
right,
But yeah, just for that cause. But yeah, it's great that you learned Arabic with another human on Zoom. And
yes.
and now you're able to speak to your Palestinian partner.
I know, and he still will switch to English though, because it's just easier for him than and also because the dialect's a little different, which is, oh, I could go on a whole rant about Arabic dialects,
Uh-huh.
but what, but what I feel as I can speak now much more. I really don't want to call myself fluent, but now it really has helped me understand the culture better now
Hmm.
that because so much of culture is embedded in language and how we speak. And I have a level of understanding that I didn't have before I understood that. So it's not just that it makes it easier for me to do my work, but it's just the understanding has
Hmm.
progressed by leaps and bounds.
Yeah, no, this is like sort of obvious if you think about it. My first boyfriend was from Syria, so I tried really to learn Arabic, but for me it was so hard because I come from a very different, and I had nowhere to kind of grab on. It's not a Latin language, obviously. It has completely different
Right.
roots. But but I'm starting to learn French now, and I discovered that the more languages you learn, the better your brain adapts to a new language. And
Uh-huh.
my next goal would be Arabic, so I'm going to try again, not only because you know, when I was in Egypt, everyone was speaking Arabic with me because they think that I'm Egyptian because
Oh,
I could be Moroccan or Egyptian from the way
yeah,
I look. I know that a lot of, and actually Brazil has a lot of influences amongst others, European, African, indigenous, but also
yeah,
from the Arabic Peninsula and
sure.
from India and everything. We are a big mix of people, but because I listen to the music and I find it an utterly beautiful language, and I
Mm.
hear you about the dialect. I like the Egyptian dialect a lot, but then if you go listen to someone from Syria or from Palestine or from Algeria, is
Yeah,
is like another language.
yeah, yeah. It is. And, and it's also you, when you listen to songs that a lot of dancers are familiar with, like the standards of like Kulthum,
Hmm.
when you are able to hear the original poetry,
Yes, the
it
poet.
hits harder
Yes.
because in translation, it just doesn't capture the beauty of the Arabic poetry, you
Hmm.
know? And so being able to be in the song and immerse in it in its language opens up a different kind of experience dancing to those songs.
Yeah.
So I highly recommend.
Totally. It's sort of this like reading between the lines, no? Because like you English has something to it, but then also I speak German because my dad is German, and I always say this to people who are learning German is like I say them learn the language because it will recalibrate and reformulate the way the neuronal patterns in your brain work, because German is a
Yes.
language that you understand Germans better because like ta 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 it's very organized. It's not an emotional language
Yeah.
necessarily unless you talk like Goethe, which nobody does. And I think the same with Arabic or with Portuguese or with Turkish. These languages, they have a poetry to them
Yes.
that is not translatable. And that's why the music is so beautiful.
Exactly.
Um, but I'm gonna ask you a question about the future, about I'm gonna ask you what is something ancient that you think humanity should carry into the future or that you hope future generations keep alive? It can be inside of dance, but you can also expand as much as you want.
I hope that human beings will continue to make music with their mouths and their hands and their feet with actual musical instruments. I am terrified at the direction we're going with AI. I feel like humanity is selling its soul. And so, doing what I do, music is the foundation on which this dance is built. And working with traditional musicians like Retta and seeing how the music moves in their blood when
Hmm.
they're playing, I don't want humanity to lose this because we're giving over our creative capacity to machines. So I hope that humans will continue to make music themselves with their mouths, their hands, their feet.
That's beautiful because I've listened to some AI music and it's true that there's stuff that is so good it's difficult to say, like you can't sometimes I can't even say if it's AI or if it's not, but that's only for like more modern stuff. But I know a lot of musicians, some of my friends that they are talking about this too, and they're having a big problem with, the valorização, word came in Portuguese, the value that then a musician has, uh, if it can be done by AI. And I know that the first pictures you sent me to be chosen off to put on the flyer, they always had musicians in the
Yeah.
band. So I realized that this is something that's important to you because obviously it's a symbiosis. Uh,
Yes.
yes. So I understand that it was just because the picture was so small, I needed
Oh,
to.
no, I totally understand. But, and when you talk to Egyptian musicians and you ask them, what's the most important thing in the dance? And they will always tell you, ihsas, feeling,
Mm,
feeling. And
mhm,
feeling comes from the music.
mhm.
So we can't lose that. We're losing something essential to our humanity if we lose that.
Yeah. That's right. That's what other dancers have said too, that dancers that have been here that came, or that kind of morphed through the tribal fusion belly dance field, and they were like, I miss the feeling that is something that Raqs Sharqi has that is a big part of the movement and the dance, and not necessarily someone tells you, nobody can tell you to feel. It's something that you has to come from the
Yeah.
inside.
Yes.
That's beautiful. Do you have any tattoos?
Do I have a? Huh?
Tattoos? Do you have tattoos?
I have one.
You
I
have
have
one.
one on my, wait, I forget which side it's on. But I have a tattoo that I got when I was, how old? I was in my late 20s. I think it's a phoenix.
Is it a
Uh,
phoenix?
it's real simple. It's just black and white, but it's a phoenix because I was coming out of a really difficult period in my life. So I wanted something to represent like survival and rebirth. So,
Hmm.
but that's the only one I have. I've been in the back of my mind thinking about maybe another based on, when you get to be a certain age. I am a lady of a certain age, and and it's another time in my life where it feels very transitional. But I'm still weighing it. But yeah, just the one for now.
Nice. Just asking because the tattoos are part of also how sometimes they influence the body, no, or what we feel, or like you said, they always mean something, and then we carry this for
Yeah.
forever. Just like as where I come from, like understanding the body as an archive.
Yeah.
You are an incredible archive, like you are like a historical archive. Can I ask you where did you come from? Like what did you study? Because your approach to understanding this is very, very, very academic. Did you study like no, what did you study?
So when I was an undergraduate, I did a dual degree in history and anthropology.
Mhm.
And my graduate degree is specifically focused on anthropology. And I got my master's in 2000, and that was around, like, it was about a year before that I started taking belly dance classes. And that was something I did with no intent that it would go anywhere like where I ended up. But for various reasons, I left academia. Graduate school was a challenging time in my life. And so for a long time, I was working in adult education, uh, and all the work I had done towards my degree and whatnot, it was all just sitting there in my brain. And as I progressed deeper and deeper into belly dance, and my life kind of settled down, I realized that like these two halves of myself needed to be reconnected with one another, because I had started belly dance as a hobby, and I was falling into the same kind of mythologies and misinformation that everybody falls into because I had walled off my academic brain because of like certain traumas that I went through when I was in university. So
Mhm.
once those, I kind of connected those sides of my life, it kind of revived the passion that I had for researching, because that was
Hmm.
what led me to those degrees in the first place. I love history. I love seeking out answers to historical questions. And that was what set me on the path that I'm on now to do this kind of research. So yeah, I'm a nerd, and my books are written in a very academic voice. Like they're not necessarily a light read, but it's just how my brain works, as far as it's very important to me to get facts on paper, to help bring real concrete understanding to something that's been kind of misty and mythologized for a long time.
Yeah, no, you're doing a wonderful job. I'm a non-academic. Like I am not coming from any academic background and any institutional background. And when I found your work, I was like, wow, she makes it really like easy to understand because I think
Oh,
that I can feel the anthropologist in you because if I would have studied, I would have studied anthropology. I think that's the closest to my research, as when you go to tattoos, that studying tattoos, there's very few anthropologists that study tattoos.
ah,
There's like one or two or three that I know. One of them is Lars Krutak, but I'm still looking for them. And when you
mm,
study that, you end up studying indigenous history. And
yes,
I think what you chose, it can't be a light read because it's not an easy region like geographically.
great.
It's a very complex place and
Mhm.
with very complex history. So I'm really grateful that you doing the work that you do and that you wanted to come to the podcast to talk to me because I'm not like famous in that or anything. It's just I just
Oh
asked
no,
you
I'm
that
happy
yeah
to.
come.
And to be honest, that comment means so much to me, because part of my frustration with academia was that all of this work was happening in academia, but it's like shut up inside the walls of academia. And none of this is meaningful if it's not pushed out into the world for people to learn. And
Yeah.
so I've always wanted to make what I've learned in my journey doing this research accessible to other dancers. So, and understandable. Like, yeah, my writing can be kind of academically voiced, but I do try, like with my Instagram reels and stuff, to give these little bites of information to show that research doesn't have to come from academia. Anybody can be a good researcher if you have the methodology.
Hmm.
And, learning is an ongoing process. And if anything, like, I hope that my work will convey to people is you're never finished.
Yeah.
You're never finished.
Yeah,
Like,
no,
we're never
definitely.
done.
Yeah, and that is I think that is a good closing to anyone who watches this and to me. I'm 100% I agree with you. If you're never finished researching and you're never done. When you're done, you can dig your grave and then go to sleep
Exactly.
because life is this ever evolving, ever changing
Yeah.
thing. I'm gonna put all your credits under this video, Nisa St. Louis with
Mm.
Nesaa St. Louis on Instagram.
Yeah.
Um, and we have like a few minutes left. I just want to say thank you so much. Would you like to, whatever Phil, stage is yours to say something, whichever you like.
Oh my Lord, I don't know what to say. But I really, I'm super grateful for the opportunity to talk. This was delightful. And folks can visit my website, and I have links to all my social media. And I also have a Patreon where I publish a lot of like my ongoing research by way of mini lectures and articles for the patrons on my Patreon. So it's kind of a work in progress place for my research. But I'm really grateful always to have the opportunity to talk and reach more people with this kind of information. So thanks. I appreciate
Yeah.
you.
No, thank you so much. It was a pleasure. It was delightful for me to talk, and I learned a lot of new things. And this podcast will stay online. I hope it will live on, after I'm dead, to anyone who wants to dig deeper. So that's it. Much love to everyone who's interested in that. Bisous, and we see you, we see each other, and never stop learning.